Welcome in, everybody. Monday edition of Birds 365. I know I got a different looking setup today, a little different location, a new Monday morning to you, a month out, Johnny Mac, as we just talked about pre-show, a month out from Eagles training camp beginning, a month out from that first practice. How you doing on this Monday morning, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer. Some big things this week. Jason Kelsey's back down to shore for his charity event for the Eagles Autism Foundation, Sea City this week. Devontae Smith's celebrity softball game is this upcoming Saturday in Allentown for people up in that neck of the woods. And Milton Williams, Zach McPherson having their 7-on-7 annual football classic, high school football classic in South Jersey. That will be Friday, I believe. So some of the guys trickling back in. They'll be back out again quickly for the 4th of July holiday. But, you'll see some Eagles around this week, around the Delaware Valley, so to speak.
So there's some good stuff planned for the Eagles players. They got their off-season stuff. They got some of their, as you mentioned, Devontae softball games. So pretty good stuff. I want to welcome everybody in this morning. Madness, Eduardo, Ryan, Suplex, Slagger, CZ, anybody I missed, Twiz, the Jigga, Crowley, Tyler Bra as well. We appreciate all you guys being here this morning. Thanks for sticking with us all through the off-season. June 24th, everybody. We are moving quick, Johnny Mac. The time moves quick when you have your eye on it. It really does. And we are now just under maybe 30 days away till that July 23rd report date. So getting close, and we are ready to rock. Johnny Mac, what are you thinking about right now as we're a month out from training camp? Any players on your mind? Any position groups on your mind? Anything right now you're thinking? I know we have a month to stew on it, but anything on your top of mind for you as you think about what you're going to be looking for going down there a month from now?
Yeah, I've been pretty. I think the story of the season is how Jalen Hurts is going to mesh with Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier to a lesser extent, and I think he's got a prior relationship with Doug. But I want to see how this offense works. There's a clip going around from Tom Brady. It's not new. Yeah, it's pretty new, but I think it was posted maybe a week or so ago, where it's talking about basically boiling down quarterback play in the modern NFL into about 5 minutes, really. And, he mentioned 4 specific quarterbacks, himself, Peyton Manning. Those are the 2 I always say. Those are the templates for me for the modern quarterback. And I'll explain why in a second. He added Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is key because that's Nick Sirianni's guy. Nick Sirianni loves Phillip Rivers. And he loves Phillip Rivers because he can handle things at the line of scrimmage. And that's what Tom was kind of pointing out. It's like, we're not going to make a great throw all the time. We're not going to make a great play all the time. How we judged ourselves, and he's talking about Tom and Peyton and Drew and Phillip, is did we get this team into the right play on a right circumstance? Did we run a poor play with the opportunity to chat? That's how they judge themselves. Not touchdowns, not yards, not passer rating, not championships. Did I get my team play to play in the right position to potentially succeed? And that really, there's nobody to talk about it better than Tom Brady. That really boils it down to where you want to be if you can get there. Easier said than done. There's very few people that can do that seamlessly in the NFL, and that's what sets those guys apart. But that's where you should be striving for. So I've said, to me, it's no issue about struggling in the spring. We're not even going to talk about that once training camp begins. We're certainly not going to talk about the offensive struggles in the spring when the season starts. And I think people have to understand what practice is. Practice isn't a game. You're not trying to win practice. You're not trying to win a series of plays. You're not trying to win an individual play. You're trying to get better. Sometimes that's doing some things maybe you do poorly to try to get better at them. And if that's what's going on, I have no problem whatsoever. That's just good coaching. Now, if Kellen Moore's trying to And Dallas Goddard had one of his charity things out in Drexel Hill last week, and he had mentioned, the quick game again. If it's trying to pound the square peg in the round hole, then you got an issue. And that to me is going to be the story of the entire season. What that relationship develops into.
Yeah, and there was another report that came out. By the way, I did see that clip before I move on. I did see that clip from Tom Brady. Just tremendous stuff when you listen to him break down and you realize how much base level analysis goes on. It's such a deeper position. There's so much more that goes on into it. And when you hear a guy like Tom Brady, tell you how he judges himself, it's obviously something worth listening to. And we'll get back into that a little bit. But back to your point about Hurts and Kellen and the meshing of the offense. There was another report that came out this week from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN that Hurts has been more vocal. I don't know if this is a kind of a, reaction to some of the latest news, but he's been vocal and taking ownership. And that was the report from Jeremy Fowler. The quote was, "I'm told the Eagles have spent a lot of time this offseason taking the old offense, Nick Sirianni's system last year that Jalen Hurts is used to, mixing it with Kellen Moore's principles, put it all in a pot with some gumbo and seeing what works and what Jalen Hurts is comfortable with. I'm told Hurts has done a good job of this offseason of being vocal and taking ownership of the plays he likes and the plays that he doesn't." I think that's a positive thing. I want Jalen to own this offense. I want him to be the executor. I want him to be the main guy in there. I know Kellen's obviously a big part of it, but I think it all comes down to Hurts. And to me, that's a positive thing. I don't know if there's much validity to it, but just back to your point about how important that storyline is, I think it's make or break for the Eagles this year, that whole situation.
Yeah, and hopefully Jeremy's description turns out to be correct because that's what you want. Now, Jalen himself called it 95% new. That's the question I actually asked him. How vocal are you at this point in sort of, imparting what you like on this offense? And he kind of took it in that other direction about learning it, 95% new. And we'll see. I mean, certainly there's going to be stuff you're familiar with because, it's the NFL. Everybody runs bubble screens. Everybody runs certain things. They've been a good quarterback sneak team for years. So they're certainly going to continue running the quarterback sneak. Simple things like that. They're a staple of every offense, inside zone, outside zone. Jeff Stoutland's here. That's what they're going to do in the running game. So a lot of it's going to be similar. And so that 95% thing is probably more related to terminology. And that's always been a pet peeve. I don't understand coaches who can't, maybe be a little bit more open to, there's tremendous turnover in the NFL, but there's still a bunch of guys who are going to be there. So my point is, if you're going into a new situation with like Kellen Moore is with a quarterback that's entrenched, that's been here, and you have similar things, and he's got to learn it. Why does the quarterback have to learn? Why don't it isn't it easier for one to change than 25 or, however many offensive players? But while I say that, I'm not picking on Kellen Moore because everybody does that. And it's always been one of those things that have been not made a lot of sense to me. Like if you're changing, you got a bunch of new players, you're bringing in a completely new scheme, you have to change certain things, no question about it, on both sides of the football. But when things are similar, doesn't make sense to me, never has.
Yeah, makes your explanation of that makes sense to me for sure. John, going back to that Brady clip, how confident are you in Hurts to do some of those things that Brady talked about? I mean, I feel like so much of what he talked about is things that are harder to quantify, especially as a fan who's watching the game on TV every week, or even if you're going down there and you're watching Jalen Hurts and, you might have a gripe with the passing yards or whatever, just the way he plays the game. But specifically speaking about what Tom said, reading defenses and those type of things, and at the line of scrimmage, managing the game, stuff like intangibles like that Brady talked about. How much of that have you seen from Hurts, at least up to this point? You've been covering him since he's been an NFL player. And how confident are you in him to make a stride and a step forward in that moving forward?
Well, I'm confident in him taking a stride. Can he get to that level? I don't know. Not many people can. I would say I would lean against that, and I'm talking about again Tom Brady, Peyton Manning level, which is that's a high bar to
Yeah.
to put it understated. So it depends what you're saying, but yeah, I expect him to get better every year. One of the things, and that's why I can't stand it. Everybody who knows the show and they're sick of hearing it. You don't judge play calls. I don't care if you know it or not. You don't. You have no idea, and that's what makes it. And Tom said that as well. The frustrating part. It's not basketball. It's not baseball. It's not these sports that are pretty straightforward. There's a lot of nebulous aspects to the position that you're never going to know, and the NFL doesn't help because they hold on to these secrets like it's the CIA, and it's not that important, and they could help educate better, but teams are never going to do that because of the competitive advantage factor. And I get the most obvious example, because AJ stepped up and took responsibility, was the Seattle play. Again, before that, people are saying, what are they doing? They're not giving Jalen options, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't the case. He's the one who checked at the line of scrimmage, he and AJ. And they had that ability, and they were given that leash, and it didn't work, and they made a mistake. And
But aren't you okay with that mistake? Because I think this is one of those things that was blown up a lot. Like, I don't have a problem if my quarterback wants to go a different route. Now, I hope he does it in a way that is conducive to keeping a good relationship and a good environment on the team. But I don't have a problem with Hurts and AJ saying, hey, we like this play better at the line of scrimmage right here. Let's go to it. If it doesn't work, all right, it doesn't work. I mean, but not every play is going to work, no matter what situation.
Well, that's why Tom was saying, well, hey, there's two maybe you make a bad throw, maybe you make the right call, but you make a bad throw.
Right.
Making the right decision does not guarantee success. It just, it increases your odds for success. In that case, it was the wrong decision because, they were in a too high shell, and you saw as I think it was Julian Love was able to come over pretty quickly and ascertain what was going on. Ironically, Seattle won the game on the same play, but Drew Lock made the right decision because he read the coverage correctly, and he had a one-on-one, and they ended up winning the game. So from that standpoint, if that were Tom Brady making that throw, he could that's as he judges himself, as he said, he would say he did a bad job. That's where you're doing a bad job, when you're making the wrong decision and not getting your team into the proper play, which will give you the best chance of success. So,
And is that mostly on reading defenses?
yeah, I would say. I mean, there could be so many things. I mean, a lot of people, does he want to get the ball to his biggest playmaker in a big spot? That could be, all that stuff factors into it. There's so many things that come into it. It's not just about, all right, he made a wrong. He didn't see what was happening on the field correctly. There could be a bunch of things that come into it, and I wish Jalen was a little bit more honest about those types of things, but he's hardly the only one that keeps that stuff under wraps.
Yeah, I'm not going to knock him for that. But the reading defense thing is interesting because I've always thought that it takes time. Like, even for Tom Brady, a guy who was the best at it, he didn't come into the league dicing up defenses, reading them well. He got better and better and better at it over the year, and so does every quarterback. It's a hard thing to do. There's a lot to grasp. It's always changing. There's so many different looks, different things, different possibilities on any given play. But a lot of people, a lot of fans point to, they think Jalen Hurts, and I don't know, in some instances, I think they're right, but not every instance. Fans are critical of Jalen Hurts' ability to read a defense. And, you look at some of the all 22s, and there was Dallas Goedert open on one side, or whoever it might have been on any given play. And he missed them. I know there's progression reading and all those things.
Yeah, that drives me nuts too. I'm glad
it drives me nuts too. But I just to the point about reading defenses, do you think that's something that, Jalen can get down? Have you seen enough of him to be like, okay, he's going to get it? It's going to take a little time. He's still a young dude, remember. This isn't like a 30.
He's only 25. It's always a process. He's only 25 years old. It's always a process. He's gotten consistently better. There's no reason to assume he's not going to get better and better and better as he goes on in his career. Learn from certain things. Don't repeat them. How high can he go? That remains to be seen, But I think, the blitz is probably the biggest thing because it looked so bad last year. And then the nonsense, and that's what I call it, that, oh, Nick Sirianni's got no hot routes in his offense. I mean, think about that on a base level and how stupid that is. I mean, the guy's been an NFL coach for how long? The guy's coached the position. The guy won 29 of 32 games at one stretch. And he doesn't have a hot route, which you can go down to your local high school and see hot routes.
Yeah. So where does that come though, John? Because look, I respect your opinion on football as much as anybody. And I see exactly what you're saying, and it makes sense to me. But when I listened to our post-game show last year,
and by the way, he coached Phillip Rivers as the offensive coordinator. He's pretty damn good at figuring out what was going on.
Right, so why was it not evident? Like I said, I listened to you, and it makes sense. I listened to Seth Joyner on the post-game show constantly talk about hot routes and the lack thereof of them in the Eagles offense. Why? What happened last year that they didn't have it? I know, I'm with you. It's not that Nick Sirianni doesn't know what they are, but where was the deficiency in having them? Where was it created?
Well, the blame is being put on the wrong people. Hot routes are always the responsibility of the quarterbacks and the receivers being on the same page. It's built into the offense. If you see something, and that's where Tom's saying, right. And he mentioned, I forget the word, he would have the one-word calls to communicate it to everybody. Could be Xander, could be Johnny Mack, could be Jeff Kerr. And that communicates everything to everybody. Hot routes are always on the quarterback and the receiver being on the same page. If they see a slot blitz, ball better come out.
Right.
That's built into the offense, whether people want to believe that or not. I don't care if you hate Nick Sirianni, feel free. If you hate Brian Johnson, if you think they're the dumbest people in the world. But I'm telling you, you're wrong. If you think Brian played the damn position at a high level at Utah, he knows what a hot route is. You think sitting on your couch and wherever, you think you know a hot route better than Brian Johnson? I mean,
no, I don't.
A lot of people do. So, if the quarterback isn't comfortable, if the receivers aren't on the same page, that's where you sort of back it. And I would consider, because I don't like bubble screens, but that's what the Eagles did. Let's be honest. So they defaulted to, all right, we don't have a good look. We got the numbers outside. Let's try to make a play with a bubble screen. They got to get off that. They got to get better. And that involves, if you want to criticize the coaching, that involves getting the quarterback prepared to where he's comfortable to go in other directions. And that's a big part of what Kellen Moore's job is this season, to put it mildly.
Yep, lot to look forward to as we prepare for training camp. Just a month away. Johnny Mac put it nicely in this segment. A lot to look for in the offense. A lot to see how Jalen and Kellen Moore mesh, and even Nick Sirianni. What's his role, and how does the whole thing mesh together? So we'll see how it all plays out. Coming up next, we'll have Jeff Kerr join the show as we do every Monday. So Jeff Kerr coming up next. To see him in the green room. Let's get to our first commercial break. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. A lot of good viewers. A lot of good listeners already in here this morning on this Monday, June 24th. Hot summer days right now, everybody. Hope you're staying cool out there and you got the AC on if you have it. So stay tuned, everybody. Make sure you like the show. We'll be right back with Jeff Kerr.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.